It's been such a roller coaster ride for all of our heroes on the front lines, especially those in the hospital. And while here in the public, especially for so many of us that are vaccinated, we kind of feel like the pandemic is almost behind us, but it's still very much real, especially for those working in the hospitals. Let's bring in Eric Wallace. He's the president over at the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. Great to have you back with us. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me on this not rainy Friday, I think.
I know, but it was like I walked outside this morning. I was like, whoa, is it September? What happened to our hot summer weather?
Hopefully it's a wonderful break that everybody gets to enjoy this weekend.
And speaking of getting a break, are you guys getting a break at the hospital right now? Are COVID cases down?
Yeah, it is really great that I think yesterday when I looked across the entire Henry Ford Health System, we only had 12 COVID patients. And so it has really been good that the incidence within our community has decreased significantly. It's certainly not that way across other areas of the country or even other areas of the state. But right now we seem to be making some headway.
And so with that too, when we see other parts of the country starting to see somewhat of a bit of a surge again, and it tends to be in those states with the lower vaccination rates, and we know the Delta variant is out there, does that concern you?
It's always a concern that the longer that we don't get to a place where we have high vaccination rates across the country and frankly even across the world, that there are going to be newer and newer variants that emerge. Just this week, a study came out of Israel, which is the highest vaccinated country in the world. The good news is that the Pfizer vaccine against the Delta variant still prevents about 63% of all cases. So that's significantly lower than what we saw with the 95% protection against all cases. The good news is that the Pfizer vaccine still presents symptomatic cases about 93% of the time, even with the Delta variant. So, the good news is even right now with our current vaccines, if you do get ill, you may not even know that you're ill, or the symptoms are going to be exceptionally mild. The concern as we go forward is going to be that there's going to be another variant, and the next variant we may not have that level of protection against. And so, the vaccination rates that we see, we're very fortunate here in Oakland County to have one of the highest vaccination rates in the state. But we've got to get everybody else to come along with us too.
So with that, I know that Henry Ford Health Hospital System, they are going to start mandating all the employees get vaccinated. Where do things stand on that front?
Yeah, obviously, that announcement just came out about 10 days ago or so. And so we've really spent the last, 10 days very deeply involved in conversation with our team members. I would say we've got, keep in mind, we've got almost 70% of our folks who already are vaccinated. And so for many of those folks, I've had many people say, thank you. It's about time. Why did it take so long? This is what they wanted to see because they know that they're going to be better protected in their workplace. We know that really all through the spring and early part of the summer, we had a lot of our team members that just, were very open with us and said, when you mandate it, we'll get it. And so I think that was one of the things that kind of pushed us down this path to say, okay, well, then we know that we've got to do this. And frankly, one of the things I really, really want to stress is this is not new for healthcare. I'm a nurse by background, and I've told our team, since the minute I entered nursing school 20-something years ago, folks have been saying to me, you got to have your hepatitis B vaccinations, you got to have your MMR vaccination, you got to have your Tdap vaccination, you got to have your flu vaccination. This is just the next step. As our world continues to evolve and change and new threats come forward, we know that these vaccines are very safe. We've got 175 million people in this country that have had at least one dose of this vaccine. There's never been another drug in the history of our country that has had this much data prior to its full FDA approval. None. And so, when folks say, well, we don't know if it's safe. No, we absolutely know that this drug is safe, or these drugs are safe. And frankly, if folks who are concerned about the mRNA vaccines, we even have the Johnson & Johnson vaccine that is the older vaccine technology that's out there as well. So there's lots of great options. And what we've told our folks is at the end of the day, this is about one thing. It's about keeping our team members safe And we know that this vaccine will do that. And so that's why we've gone down the path of making it a condition of employment going forward.
And so with that, are you concerned that there are going to be some employees that say, I'm not getting it and walk away?
Yeah, our goal is absolutely that we don't want a single person to walk away from us. We do have some history that even about 9 years ago, when the system made the flu vaccine mandatory, that there were some folks who left the organization. It tends to be much smaller numbers than what people fear, which is a good thing. But we're not taking any of that for granted. Just this week we had 4 different sessions: day shift, night shift, evening shift, with our team members to spend several hours answering their questions and trying to make sure they had the right information. We had some of our clinical experts available for them to talk to. So we're doing everything in our power to make sure that people have the right information and they can make a good choice. I would also add that what we've also told folks is we know there's people that may have a medical reason or a religious reason that they can't take a vaccine. And we've got an exception process for that. I've said to folks, I encourage folks, if you have a legitimate reason for not being able to take this vaccine, apply for the exemption. And if it is real, if it makes sense, we want you to have it, because we don't want to put anybody in harm's way.
Right. And if I can ask you, again, Eric Wallace with us here on the MegaCast. He's the president for Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. I'm really somewhat surprised that the numbers are as high as they are of people working in the healthcare industry that have chosen not to get vaccinated, because I feel like your employees and the employees at the hospitals across the country, and we should say that you employ so many people that aren't just on the front lines in the care world. There are so many other positions within the hospital as well. But these employees have seen firsthand the devastation of COVID-19, that I'm surprised those numbers aren't higher for them to be vaccinated.
Yeah, and I think what you also have to look at too is, as you mentioned, we do have a lot of folks who don't work in direct caregivers. They're folks that aren't necessarily licensed caregivers. When you look at the number of vaccinations amongst our physicians, our bedside nurses, those numbers are actually quite good. Our physicians are over 93% vaccinated. And those folks who are in direct patient care are very highly vaccinated. I think like the rest of the public, where we've kind of struggled a little bit is in those roles that are a little farther away from the bedside, and to your point, don't really deal with direct patient care on a day-to-day basis. And so those are the roles that we are a little bit lower than where we'd like to be, and we're spending a lot of our time trying to help those folks understand the science and why it's important for them too.
So we know that while you were the first to announce it here within our area, now Trinity Health has announced that they're going to be mandating it for their employees. Do you think this is going to become the norm within healthcare settings going forward?
Yeah, I do. And I think for all the reasons that I mentioned, we know that the vaccines have great efficacy, and we know that they're safe. And I think we also know at this point, the only way we get out of this pandemic for the long haul is to get people vaccinated. It's as simple as going back to, we had a day and time in this country when everybody had to get the smallpox vaccine, when everybody had to get the polio vaccine. Well, we don't have to do that anymore, because those viruses have really been eliminated from the industrialized world. And we know that if we can get those high levels of vaccination, we'll get out of this. When we announced, I think the 28th of June, there were 12 healthcare systems in the entire country that had gone forward with a mandatory vaccination. As of Wednesday, now there's 24. And that doesn't even include Trinity, and their multiple, I think 117,000 team members. So it's every day that there are new folks coming forward and announcing that they're going to make this mandatory. So I do think that you're going to see, and I won't say that it's all going to be, this calendar year, but I think in a very short order, you're going to see almost all healthcare systems make this a mandatory part of employment.
But Eric, I think it's an important thing that you pointed out, that while there's so much talk around the COVID-19 vaccine, this is not, having mandates on certain vaccines is nothing new to the healthcare industry.
You're absolutely right. Like I said, I think, it, 9 years ago, we added flu to that list of work requirements. A few years before that, the measles, mumps, and rubella shot was added because there was an outbreak of measles in our country that was really threatening everyone. And so, these things are safe. We wouldn't have gone down this path if we didn't absolutely know that these vaccines were safe. Even our own healthcare system, we've given over 350,000 vaccinations to folks in Southeast Michigan, including our own team members. And we've looked at the complication rates for every single one of those folks. People who have an adverse reaction, which is something that actually they need to seek treatment, go to their doctor, go to their emergency room, is 0.09% of the folks that Henry Ford is vaccinated. They are exceptionally safe. And so that's why we feel comfortable going down this path.
And so with that, do you think you're having the argument too, though, because these vaccines have not had the final approval from the FDA? Would it be different if they were already in that stage?
Yeah, I think, this is the normal process. And again, what I would stress is there's never been a drug in the history of this country that's had more people receive the drug or been involved in the approval process, the trial process, prior to full FDA approval than these medications. And so, that in and of itself shows you there is sufficient data. We fully expect that they're going to get full approval really any day at this point. And I think what you're going to see is there are some health systems that are waiting till there is full FDA approval to go forward with their mandate. We expect that full approval is going to be achieved before our September 10th deadline. And so that's kind of why we felt comfortable with moving forward. The EEOC came out with a statement a few weeks back saying that employers are well within their rights to mandate these vaccines because they have been approved by the FDA for use. They just haven't gotten to that final step of full approval at this point.
So I know that when we've talked before, staffing has been an issue, not just at your hospital, but at businesses and companies, throughout the region. Do you think, is this going to maybe attract people to come work for your organization, or do you think it's going to make it harder for you to, recruit new talent?
We've seen some of both. We've seen people that have applied in that first 10 days because we did mandate the vaccine and they want to work in a place where they know they're going to be safe. And again, we've also had conversations with some of our team members that say, I'm not going to be staying. I don't know on the balance that it's going to make things dramatically different for us. The labor market at this moment is exceptionally challenging, and there's no doubt about that. And I think in spite of that, we felt convicted that this was the right thing to do to keep our folks safe and our community safe. And so that's why we moved forward.
So with that, again, Eric Wallace with us here on the MegaCast, president for the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. Anything else going on over there at the hospital you want to share with us? I feel like this entire time it's always been focused around COVID.
Yeah, well, no, and I appreciate that. I think one of the really cool things is we are actually next week going to be starting our growth phase. And so you'll see if you come to the campus starting next week that we're going to be doing a little construction. And we're actually going to be start the construction of a parking structure here on the campus. It's the first one in West Bloomfield Township. And it's going to be about five stories tall when it's all said and done, and about 600 new parking spaces here on the campus. And so we're really excited to be in that phase. It's great to know that so many people want to come here that we've been running out of parking. So we have to try to make that a little more convenient. And then the other thing that's going to enable is we're now in the planning phase for an expansion to the hospital itself. And we've started working with some architectural firms and designers. And really, if things go well, hopefully by the end of 2022, the beginning of 2023, we're going to break ground on a very large expansion of the West Bloomfield Hospital here so we can better serve the community.
Well, that is great to know. But I will say, don't take this personally, but I hope to never have to visit you.
Yep. I tell folks, one of the best parts of my job is I get a chance to get out and talk with our patients. And every single one of them that I talk to, the last thing I say is, it's been so great to meet you. I hope to never see you again. So, we're okay with, we're not the place that everybody always wants to come. But at the end of the day, we want to be here not just for the illness and treating illness in our community, but we want to be here to increase the wellness in our community too.
Absolutely. Well, again, Eric Wallace, president for the Henry Ford West Bloomfield Hospital. We always appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me.